In this video, I'll be talking about thermoelectric generators. These are basically devices that could convert heat energy into electrical energy. If you're not familiar, I had made a short animation video that could help explain what thermoelectric generators are and how I'm planning to use this device in my home project. If you want to find out more, I'll make sure I'll put a link in the description below. So to start, let's first talk about this picture. This is how the thermoelectric generator looks like now. From the last video, I mentioned the biggest problem I have was I can't create a watertight box. So I scrapped the design and I rebuilt a new one here, and this is what you're looking at. And from the days of testing, I could happily say there is no leak found and the water level in the reservoir never dropped. So I'm happy to report I did build a watertight container here. As you can see here, the build isn't quite complete yet. I haven't painted the top surface, and I also still want to insulate the bottom container. But the temperature is starting to get cold now, so I'm actually glad I could have this tester set up. I'm going to try to gather some data over the winter. Now, before I demonstrate what kind of data this collected, let's get some terminologies sorted out. Over here, this would be sensor 1. This is the temperature sensor that's down inside the water chamber. And over up here, I will call this sensor 2. This would be the sensor reading the temperature on the surface of the thermoelectric generator. I should also talk about this change I made with the circuitry here. There's some dramatic change that were made that makes it different from the video I've shown last time. So what I have here, I'm going to have a thermoelectric generator on the side. As a measurement device, I am still using INA 219. And as a load, I am still using motor, but I also added some resistors in the loop. This circuit doesn't have LEDs anymore, and part of the reason is because of this diode rectifier. This diode rectifier is the most important piece that I want to add to the circuit. In the last video, as the sun goes down, when the thermoelectric generator was releasing heat to the top surface, I wasn't able to capture and measure that energy source. So I'm hoping this diode rectifier would help me measure that. And because of the diode rectifier, I didn't want too much cutoff voltage. I decided to remove the LEDs out of this circuitry. And now to complete the circuit, I joined the wires here. I also added a capacitor just to smooth out any spikes. And let's not forget, I still have the power on the INA 219. So it's powered with a 5 volts down over here with a 0 volt reference. And the reference voltage is also pulled all the way over to this end. So let's take a look what kind of data I captured. And to make things look a little better, I have also shaded these areas here. What you're seeing here are data from 3 consecutive days. I shaded the area here from 8 to 4. The sun technically sets at 5:30, but from where I located the thermoelectric generator, it typically hits the thermoelectric generator at around noon, and it moves into the shadow at around 4. So what you're seeing up above are the temperatures, and down below is the current that's measured from the INA 219. From the last video I already described, whenever there's a difference between T1 and T2, that's really when the thermoelectric generator generates the energy. And the larger the gap, the more energy it generates. During the day, you can see when the sun's shining, that's when the energy is generated. But I also want to point out, thanks to the diode rectifier, as the sun sets, when T2 drops down below T1, I am now able to measure that amount of energy it generates overnight. And some of the days, especially on the 20th, it's generating electricity the entire night. So what exactly happened on the night between November 19th and 20th? Oh, it was just getting cold and things are starting to freeze. Look what I found out in the morning. This is what happened. Now, what I hope you could pay attention to is what happened on the next day. So on the 19th, everything started to freeze overnight. The temperatures dropping fast. But in the morning, everything started to warm up again. This freeze and thaw temperature swing really boosted the thermoelectric generator. Just look how much more energy I've been generating throughout this cycle. I have a lot more data to show here, but Excel is starting to get slow and clunky. So I'm going to try a new tool here. There is this tool called the Tableau, which is very nice for data visualization, and it appears that I could even make these public. So I will share a link to this viz later on. This is a very powerful tool because what I could have here, if I'll scroll down, you could see I've collected all the weather station data, how the weather station data could actually match the measured temperature. These three were the days that I presented in the Excel, and how the temperature and the weather up below could match with how much the temperature difference and ultimately the power and the current, the power and the voltage that could be output. And from the power and voltage, I would calculate the power. And from the calculated power, I could even start playing around with a running total of the energy that's generated. The tool is quite powerful because I could even play around with this filter here. See here if I move this filter to this area, give it some time to load, and see how it updated the graph. This was the Excel that was just presented earlier. I could quickly scroll down and then I could highlight and say, oh, it appears that I did 32K of a milliwatt second amount of energy that was generated. And if I scroll back the entire duration, giving it a time to load again, once again, down below. So here to date, I've made 51 milliwatt second in terms of energy generated using this thermoelectric generator. And another piece we want to correlate from this tool is the amount of power we generate versus the weather itself. Check on these days how when the sky is clear, when it's sunny, I do have a lot of energy generated. And down on these other days when it's all cloudy and rainy, there's not much energy it's generating at all. But it's not that there's no activities, there are still some that's happening in between. And if you look over here to the very end, yes, you read it right, it was snowing. So that is all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will keep modifying the thermoelectric generator, and I'll hope I could generate some data over the winter. Stay tuned to find out.